took place in the, well, in a controversial part of the country. It was in cold blood. Definite advantage to Truman Capote's work, just like he did with Tennessee Williams here. In 1966, Garfield 8 and Patent Hot Tin Roof was reissued by MGM, and to say that they indeed was selling Elizabeth Taylor, it's called Liz
Oh my
Sizzles.
goodness! Oh my goodness!
And this is the way Elizabeth was more often than not presented to the public by the studios. It was definitely with an eye towards her physical attributes. On March 23rd of this year, Elizabeth Taylor died at the age of 79. And always known for her beauty, I think this is a pretty good indication that she could be an accomplished actress when she wanted to be. Off-screen, her life was definitely fodder for the tabloids. In between 8 marriages, outrageous scandal on occasion, unquestionable sorrow in quite a few moments in her life, and some incredible medical problems. She endured pneumonia in the early 60s, which almost took her life. I'm forgetting the name of the actress. Oh, it's awful. It was in The Apartment. Shirley MacLaine. Shirley MacLaine and Elizabeth Taylor were up for an Oscar that year, and Elizabeth Taylor won for Butterfield 8. And Shirley MacLaine said afterwards that she was beaten by a throat operation, a tracheotomy, which is probably not, it just kind of exemplified the fact that Taylor had been through an incredible amount of things that would perhaps put other people in a state of, remorse that would be difficult to come back from. She dealt with a brain tumor at one point in her life. She had her back broken on several occasions. And late in life, it was incredibly difficult for her to walk or stand for any period of time. You perhaps have seen photographs of her in a wheelchair. That was the reason why. The marriages included Conrad Hilton. I believe she was 19 at the time. That didn't last very long, and I guess was a pretty abusive situation. Went to Michael Wilding, by which she had a couple of children. Married Michael Todd, who was a showman of perhaps considerable proportion. Very shortly into that marriage, she was pregnant, and he got killed in an airplane crash. She goes to Eddie Fisher, Richard Burton, whom she fell in love with, I guess, twice, if you want to believe that the reason to get remarried would be romance again. John Warner, a politician, and last but far from least, a fellow by the name of Larry Fortensky, who she met in a rehab center and who was a construction worker. Tragic death was part of her life. Mentioned Mike Todd. Her co-stars in Giant, we saw the preview for earlier. James Dean died in an automobile accident, and Rock Hudson died of AIDS, which indeed set Elizabeth Taylor off on a crusade to try to create a situation where people wouldn't have to suffer from that disease. Raised an incredible amount of money on behalf of AIDS charities, and started up an organization called AmFair, American Foundation for AIDS Research. Really quite a valuable foundation which has helped people with that situation. She also made millions marketing perfumes, which had the names of Passion and White Diamonds were two that were extremely popular. Had 4 children, 9 grandchildren. Some of the things that are like milestones in her career. She was the first actress to be paid $1 million for a movie role, and that was appearing in Cleopatra, which was kind of, unfortunately, a ill-fated affair. It was during the filming of that in England that she was stricken with pneumonia that almost took her life and caused the movie to shut down for almost 6 months. It was, I think the negative cost was at that time $40 million, which if you consider inflation today would bring it up over $300 million. The movie grossed in its run probably about 60-odd million, which probably makes it one of the biggest flops in the history of Hollywood. She considered Michael Jackson amongst her closest friends and was indeed a staunch defender of Jackson when scandal erupted around him. Co-starred with Richard Burton in 11 films. For a while there was absolutely no separating the two of them on screen. Some of them are quite memorable, and a couple of them are pretty dismissible. Of course, amassed a valuable collection of jewelry, which is reportedly going to be auctioned off at an estimated value of $150 million. Had some pretty, there were pictures of a couple of diamonds. One, I think, that Richard Burton gave to her. That was an incredible demonstration of, I'll call it love. She was raised but converted to Judaism in 1959 at the age of 27. And she was married to Michael Todd and Eddie Fisher, who were both Jewish, but indicated that it was not because of them that she made the conversion. She just felt that this is something that she wanted to do. I think if you read about Elizabeth Taylor, you will discover that she was her own person. Not too many people could tell her what to do. A very strong personality. She unfortunately didn't make the cover of this week's Entertainment Weekly. It was taken by a guy who has relinquished an office and who's apparently coming back to the entertainment business, Arnold Schwarzenegger. But they had to do something that was representative for a personality of Elizabeth Taylor's stature. She's on the back cover, and the magazine goes inward with about a half a dozen or so pages devoted specifically to her. It's a very interesting and informative article. Is there anything that anyone here would like to comment on what you felt about Elizabeth Taylor? Or if you want to ask me a question, I don't know if I can give you an answer, but I'd be happy to try. I've been involved in this business for about 45 years, and I lived through most of the time period when Elizabeth Taylor's movies were being shown, and would like to say that I've seen a number of them and appreciated her talent and what she represented in Hollywood, which definitely was a star of a proportion which probably is difficult to equal today. The Hollywood system being what it is, there just isn't the machinery that the studios used to have to put people out in the public sector and make them the personalities that sometimes there was falsehood involved, but more often than not there was a lot of information that was being put out by the studios that indeed created megastars, and I think Taylor was definitely amongst them. Yes, ma'am.
The fourth child, was she adopted, Maria Burton?
Yes, yes, it was an adoption. Yeah. Yes, sir.
It's reported, or it's been reported anyway, that she apparently could have had heart work done on her heart and also on her arteries, which might have extended her is, but she decided not to.
No, I'm not aware of that. That I don't know.
It's in the magazines that are out right
Yeah.
now. And she was in such pain and had been for so long that she just decided that,
Yeah.
being her own person, as you said,
Yeah.
she just
Yeah.
decided that was enough.
Very strong in that respect. Very strong. I would like to end this with perhaps what would be most appropriate, and that's Liz Taylor's own words. Here's a few things that during the course of her lifetime she said. My mother says I didn't open my eyes for 8 days after I was born, but when I did, the first thing I saw was an engagement ring. I was hooked. The lady had a sense of humor. If someone is dumb enough to offer me $1 million to make a picture, I'm certainly not dumb enough to turn it down. Some of my best leading men have been dogs and horses, having appeared in National Velvet and at least one Lassie. You find out who your real friends are when you're involved in a scandal. I had a hollow leg. I could drink everybody under the table and not get drunk. My capacity was terrifying. One problem with people who have no vices is that they're pretty sure to have some annoying virtues. I've come through things that would have felled an ox. That fills me with optimism, not just for myself, but for our particular species. I don't entirely approve of some of the things I have done, or am, or have been, but I'm me. God knows I'm me. Thank you, folks. I hope you like the movie.